Cambodia, just one of the Southeast Asian countries currently challenged by the Delta variant after successfully containing the coronavirus for months. The pandemic, of course, has presented a unique test in a country where more than 70% of the population remain unbanked. Riding the digitization wave that we've seen in other parts of the world, in October, the National Bank of Cambodia launched a blockchain-based payment system, Bakong, and just this week, the bank has struck a partnership with Malaysia's Maybank to facilitate payments between the two nations. CHEA is Assistant Governor and Director General of the Central Bank at the National Bank of Cambodia, and she joins us now from the capital Phnom Penh. CHEA, fantastic to have you on the show. Fantastic to talk to you about this. Just talk to me about what you were hoping to achieve with this launch.
Well, first of all, thank you, Julia, for having me. With the Bakong that we launched in October 2020, there are three main important goals with this application. One is interoperability, living in a country where we have a very fragmented banking system, where we've got the payment service providers and the banks who are not talking with each other. And, by just making an analogy, it's like using a different mobile service provider and you can't call to each other. And so basically we want to aim to create this interoperability and make payment easy. Second is also for financial inclusion. We have, as you mentioned, about 30% of our population not having a bank account. And in fact, to open a bank account, it's a bit complicated for people in the rural area because of the KYC requirement is more demanding. And so opening a wallet account, because we implement a tier KYC, it's much easier for them to open. And the third is also to encourage the use of local currency. And now this is an important point to emphasize, because Bakong in itself would not be able to encourage the local currency or take away the US dollar from the economy. It is one of the measures that has been implemented by the central bank together with the government. The three important prerequisite is a sound macro fundamental, which is one is a stable exchange rate, a stable inflation rate, and third is a positive economic outlook and create the confidence in the local currency. So definitely Bakong will make the use of local currency easier for the people.
Oh, there's so much in there. I'm furiously trying to think about where I go first. So to your point, and we mentioned it, a huge proportion of the country, around 3/4, unbanked, but you do have high mobile penetration, so people can just access this. A mobile wallet can make payments via a phone app, and we were just showing people actually using it, which is why it's so easy. I believe all you need to use this is government ID and a mobile phone number, and that's how you get access. Far easier, to your point, than trying to get access to a bank account, for example.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, during the COVID social distancing measure, and thanks God we've been working on this project way before. And then when this pandemic hit, it's silver lining of the whole situation is that the digital adoption is the pace of it is much faster. So we have simplified the KYC measure. So for now, if you just have a phone number, you can register a wallet and transact within a very small amount, I think about $500 US. And if you want to add the value of your transactions on a daily basis, then you have to take a photo of your ID. And then if you want to increase it further, you have to actually be present at a bank branch. But at the moment, because it's targeting retail, just having a phone number on ID and take a selfie of yourself will be enough to allow you to make transaction contactless.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And around, I believe, 5.9 million people have already accessed it. One of the other things that I think is quite fascinating about this, because you mentioned, this is about trying to encourage trust, confidence in the domestic currency when, again, the vast proportion of financial transactions are paid with the US dollar. So it's about just rebuilding or building up the strength of the currency of the nation too. But it's remittance flows. I read that around 1.2 million people sent $2.8 billion home from regional nations around it back in 2019. So if you can facilitate payments from countries like Malaysia, for example, and I use that one specifically for people to send remittances back to Cambodia with more efficiently, with lower cost, then this is vital as well. And I believe you literally in the last 24 hours agreed a deal on that with Malaysia. What can you tell us?
Well, I mean, the basic idea of allowing this cross-border come from a very personal experience where my youngest son was adopted from a woman who was raped, and she was a migrant worker. She sent money home, and the money was misused to a father who was alcoholic, beat the mother, and a brother who was a drug addict. And so the idea with this cross-border, in my mind, I was thinking about other migrant workers, particularly women who work in Malaysia, mostly as domestic workers. How can we help them send money easily home? Cheap is important. Convenient is also important. But also important is that she will be able to send money directly to the school or directly to the hospital rather than sending all at once to one person, and this person risk of mismanaging the money. And so this is very empowering for women or for migrant workers in general. So we're very pleased with this launch with Malaysia, and we hope to start seeing transaction flowing in. And already we were informed by our embassy in Malaysia that they're bombarded with questions on how it is done.
You know, hearing your personal story, this is so important because financial inclusion means so many different things and empowers so many people in different ways, which I think is very important. Final point, how do you see this growing? I mean, I mentioned you've seen 5.9 million people access it already. Just give us a sense of the transactions that you're already seeing and how quickly you think you can scale this up.
So in terms of digital payment alone within this pandemic, from the end of 2019 to end of 2020, we've seen an increase of 350% in terms of volume. And in terms of value, we see an increase of 200%. And it reached to about $68 billion flowing through this electronic payment. This is a big amount given, the country GDP of 25 billion. In terms of Bakong itself, the transactions start growing. At the moment, we have about 1.5 million transactions in the Bakong ecosystem with a value of about 500 million US dollars. So it is growing quite rapidly, given that, last quarter, we only had about 100,000 of wallet users, and as of Q2, which is 3 months ago, within 3 months, we see a double number, and now we reach about 200,000 users. So we hope for it to increase further. And most importantly, we also hope that we could cooperate with other countries as well to promote this cross-border transaction for our tourists and migrant workers.
This is pioneering innovation. Come back soon, because there's a whole nother conversation about diversification in the US dollar. And I know you and I have talked offline about this, and I know you have fascinating thoughts. So we shall reconvene on this conversation. Thank you for joining us today, Serey CHEA, there from the National Bank of Cambodia. Thank you.